lives. That is about converting our career transitions to career transformation. Let us start with Naukar Mantra. Once again, welcome everyone. I'm going to request Ruchir Jain to share with us about Jito mentorship program, JPF series here, and also the Jito Connect that has recently happened in Pune. So over to you, Ruchir, to share the exciting news.
Thank you so much, Jai Janant, everyone. Ruchir Jain, it's my pleasure to share with you a bit of about Jito as well as the recent event we had. And Sanyogji later will talk about mentorship program. This session, after the initial few minutes, then we will directly go into our key speakers to touch upon this very critical topic of managing career transition. We all go through those questions in our mind where we need to pivot differently in our career, in our own organization or outside, and take a different route, different organization, different function, or try something different in a sense, right? And there are do's and don'ts, and there are some practical tips which we look forward to hear from our mentors here. So before we do that, I will take a couple of minutes to touch upon Jito. Some of you might have heard in our earlier level of series, but some of you may be new. So I'll touch upon a few things there. Let me share my screen. Okay. So Jito is just at the outset. I hope you're able to see my screen well. Okay. Jito is a very big professional organization within the Jain community. It is across all sects, across the globe, across all, you can say, different segments of the community.
Ruchir, can I just interrupt? Sorry. If you could just make it into slideshow mode, it's not very clearly visible.
That's what I was trying to do.
Me too. That's perfect. Yeah, this is better.
So it's a professional organization with about 300 plus crores of corpus. It has got 42 directors, CEO, CTO, 9 zones, 67 chapters, and in fact, there might have been more added recently, with 11 chapters being international. Right, about 14,000 members and continuing to go up. And when you add to it the ladies wing as well as youth wing, I think number goes upward of 30,000 plus, right? So as someone says that your net worth is equal to network, or your network is equal to net worth. So this is exactly this organization about. And this organization is focusing on 3 broad areas about economic empowerment, about knowledge, and about service. There are a number of initiatives, just to name a few. On the right side, when you see Jito projects and wings, there is an incubation fund as well as angel investment network. So if you are a startup, if you are a young entrepreneur looking for funding or ideas or mentorship, that's where you can get investment ideas, support, and funding. They keep organizing events across the board. Recently, there's going to be, I think in the next few weeks, going to be a trip to Israel to understand the startup ecosystem of Israel. Just to give you a flavor of what are the things which happen there. Jito Business Network is a broad network around really economic empowerment, business community, exchanging leads, and supporting each other. I'll come back to Jito Professional Forum. Jito Jobs keep organizing job fairs to help our community members, both the job seekers as well as employers, to find the right talent. Jito Center for Excellence has got a lot of tie-ups with universities, including Harvard, including Indian School of Business and others, Indian Institute of Ahmedabad and others, to really curate specific programs for at a very discounted rate to help all of us to increase our knowledge. And likewise, there are a number of other forums out there. So the point is that it's a huge network of like-minded people who come together to really take the journey forward towards those three objectives. There is a Jito Administrative Training Foundation, which has got its own, let's say, setup to support our community members to get into the higher positions in the administration of the country. They got hostels all over the country, and they support through training and other mentorship and other ecosystem support. Likewise, we got Shraman Arogyam, which provides a lot of support for our sadhvis and sadhu. So a lot which is there. Jito Professional Forum is an attempt within the Jito fraternity to get professionals together. And that brings me to the next slide. Why I am not able to. Sorry. Okay. The vision is to create a platform for all of us to come together, network, and engage. And intention is to build a common network of Gen professionals globally to help each other to grow together, right? And as part of that, mentorship program is what we launched about a year back, and it has been a fantastic journey, which Sanyogji will talk about. Number of initiatives we keep having. Certainly one on the left, on the top list was one in February, but since then we had another one with Ruchir Jain around data science as well as metaverse. We have had few things around union budget, gift opportunities. One with Ruchir Jain, IAS officer. We celebrated first year of mentorship program. And then we had recently Jito Connect in Pune. I was there along with a few other members, some of the mentors together. Of course, this was a giant event. And I think a few themes came out very clearly. Because when you are sitting in a hall with 15,000 people with overall footfalls of about 4 to 5 lakh people, it's a massive one. And that just reassures us that it's a great to be part of this powerful community of like-minded people to take the journey towards growth of the country, growth of the community and society, right? Of course, there was an address from Prime Minister Modi, which itself was very, very motivating one, plus other speakers, learned speakers also. We certainly had sessions around, let's say, business beyond borders. So if you're a business person, how do you think about not just about in your own city or own function, look at beyond borders across the world, because world is your stage. There were sessions by YouTube influencers in the sense, just to really excite the youngsters about the new trends coming in. There were motivational speakers, Vipin Bindra, Gaur Gopal Das. There were sessions around women empowerment. And then we had sessions around networking with top 25 CXO, so different industries where some of us were there to provide mentorship, speed mentorship, right? And then we had session from Ruchir Jain, CFO of Reliance, about India growth story. So all along, I think it's the reason I'm sharing with you is that when you become part of it, it's just a matter of getting one idea, one nugget that changes your life. So I think this forum was about really those pearls of wisdoms coming around and people who are very enterprising coming together to really motivate and support each other. Likewise, there are going to be more sessions in future. There is going to be JPF Global Summit. Date might be shifting. It's going to be in Washington, DC and New York. There is going to be a global summit of Jito in Bangalore, a couple of days later in the month, I think, or next month actually, right? Then there is going to be other such events happening in Gurgaon and Nashik, I'm aware of, and likewise other cities. So I think just submission to you, all of you, is that become part of it. Of course, our intention is to really walk the journey together. That's what the organization is about, and that's what our mentorship program is about. Okay. So with that, maybe then I can introduce the speakers as well, Sushma ji. Okay. Great. So with that, we come to our mentorship program where at the session Level Up Series, session number 10, and we have fantastic lineup of speakers. We have Himanshu Jain, we have Ruchir Jain and Sachin Jain. They all come from very different background. Let me take a minute to introduce each of them. Himanshu ji comes from Diversey. He is president there. Overall experience of 30 plus years across spectrum industries and roles, and traveled extensively. So that's also interesting one in Himanshu. He has been there in Diversey for 17 years in leadership roles and establishing business strategy and growth and transformation in epic and geographies. He is very passionate about helping improving lives of people, and I am glad he is here to he prioritized this over his personal commitment. So thank you, Himanshu. Ruchir with us. Ruchir is a senior leader in Discovery. Now he leads business development in Discovery South Asia. Earlier he was CFO of Discovery and Discovery Channel. We all relate to, and he has been in many different roles in Discovery. And before that, he was in Snapdeal, and he took that journey from the initial journey and of ambiguity and losses to growth and profitability and turnaround. And he has had stints in past in operations, supply chain, strategy, and finance. So I think he has gone through the transitions within his career in between around functions from one to very different type of function. And of course, Sachin is a senior director in talent management at Pepsi. And he was in one of our earlier sessions in Level Up series as well. He comes from the HR perspective. He comes from the talent management experience, has close to 17 years of experience with Pepsi in different HR roles and geographies. And so we are glad to have them here. And with that, Sushma ji, I hand over back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're so excited to have all of them share, but career and career transition. And of course, to help our panelists and our moderator customize it to the people present, we would like to actually find out about who is present today. Have you really looking for a career transition in the near future? And if so, when? Here is a poll, a quick poll, and request everyone to answer. Are you really looking for a career transition more or less immediately, or in the next 6 months, or the year later? Or you're not even looking for a career transition, you're quite comfortable where you are. If you're looking for a career transition, are you clear about the purpose of the career transition? Is it career transition? Is it transformation? How can you really maximize? What may be your doubts? So we request you to use the chat box. You could write your questions, and we would have a Q&A session after the main program is over and the moderation and the panelists have spoken, and then we would take up your questions. So looking forward to doing this and having a fantastic session. All right, I think the people have stopped. Yeah, there's some people are still answering. Great. We'd really love all of you to answer this poll. It helps us. Okay, I think it stopped moving, so maybe we should end this poll. Thank you everyone for answering. And here we're going to share the results. And that is, yes, but quite a number are looking in the next year, which is 34% the people in here. And 31% are looking for almost immediately in the next 2 months. In the next 6 months, 23%, and not really looking for a career transition right now is 11%. How clear are you about your purpose? Somewhat clear, majority of them, 54%, and very clear, 34%, not clear, and not looking for a career transition, 1%. So with that, and this is the type of audience who is attending and would like to learn much more and gain from the insights of all our mentors. Over to you, Sachin, to moderate this session and really share wisdom.
Thanks a lot, Sushma ji. And thank you, Vishal, for a generous introduction, and welcome Himanshu and Ruchir. Again, it's an honor to be here to have this conversation. As all of you would learn, I'll learn from Himanshu and Ruchir. My job today is to try and ask them difficult questions, try and bowl some googlies to see if I can get one pass through their bat. But I'm sure with their experience, they'll put everything out of the park. So with that, let me first invite Ruchir to, he kindly has created a framework which all of us can benefit from and see and talk about. So let me invite Ruchir to first talk about the framework that he has put together for career transformation. Ruchir?
Sure. Thanks, Sachin. Let me just share my screen. I hope you can see it now and hear me properly.
Yeah, we can do that, Ruchir.
Okay,
Go ahead.
cool. Okay, cool.
Yes, slideshow mode, please. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, everyone. I'll just open all of them, actually. So, welcome, everyone. I've been fortunate enough to actually undergo a few career transitions, and I'm actually undergoing one right now as I speak. I think what I've just tried to put here is, actually just my perspective of how the different stages of this career transition may look like, and it's not very different from any new process or any new business sort of, let's say, activity that we are trying to implement in our business or in our company. There's a planning stage, there's an execution phase, and then there is a sort of post analysis stage where you actually figure out or tweak the glitches, or basically figure out what to do next if you are not able to essentially achieve your goal essentially in the second stage, right? So that's what it is. In each of these, I think more than a framework, I've just tried to put here what are the difficult questions that you need to ask yourself. And I think so there are questions like why and what that we need to answer in the planning stage, which is basically figuring out what is the purpose that we are essentially going after when we are talking about career transition. So I want to change a job, I want to change essentially a role into a different function, into a different company, into let's say a different industry. So why do I want to do it, right? So basically, what is the purpose behind it? And within each of these, by the way, for each of these questions, we need to apply first principles. So don't just sort of answer by analogy. Like I should not say that my friend might say you are good at analysis, so why don't you become an analyst at a investment banking firm? Or am I good at singing, so why don't I become a musician, right? So I think don't go by analogy, apply first principles, which is, and just to sort of clarify that first principle are the propositions that do not need any other assumption, right? So basically, sun rises in the east is first principle, right? You cannot doubt it. So basically, I need to figure out for myself what is my purpose and why do I want to do it, right? Second is basically, comes the execution phase where you need to answer for yourselves, and all of these need to be answered by yourself, right? Whoever is looking for a career change, and I see 90% of you, actually all of the participants that are actually here are looking for some sort of career change, including myself that is going through it right now. How do we get to do that, right? So how do we essentially get to do what we are planning to do? So what are the sort of steps that we are going to define? And those steps could be from as minor as let's say that I will start volunteering for a sort of a job that I sort of admire, to say for example, I will approach my manager and say that I don't like this job, and why don't you put me in another role, etc. So it can between these two ranges, it can actually range anywhere. The question of when is actually very important, because I think we all need to be very realistic when we sort of answer why and what. I may want to be the president of India, and I can surely be probably in my lifetime, but then I also need to be very realistic on when can that happen. It definitely cannot happen next year. So basically, how do I plan for it, and how do I give myself reasonable opportunity to make that progress in order to not disappoint me unfairly, right? Because it's also possible, and I think it's a known fact that we tend to, like human beings, tend to overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we tend to underestimate what we can do in 10 years, right? So I think we in short term we always overestimate what we can do, right? But in long term we always underestimate what we can do. So I think we need to basically be very realistic in terms of the timelines that we set for ourselves, and then obviously work towards those incremental steps that you have defined when you answered the how question. Assess that, practice that, and then also clearly define your walkaway point. That's also when you are talking about the when, right? So I need not be continuously trying essentially to do something that I'm failing continuously with, probably because I don't have the requisite skill sets, or probably I don't have the requisite interest that is needed to do that, right? So I think very honestly we need to answer this, and then obviously imagine if we are able to successfully execute the transition? I think that's only the beginning, right? That's the first question. So on the right hand side, on the extreme right hand box, the first question is, what if you are able to make that change, right? What if I'm able to become the president of the country, right? I mean, that's not the end of it, right? That's when actually the real challenge starts, right? How do I change? How do I basically now figure out what problems do I need to solve? What are the new requirements in the job that I've just taken up? And we should always imagine that, in this new role or in this new job or in this new industry, new function that you've gotten, there will always be external stakeholders from where you will have distrust seeping in, right? Basically, they'll always doubt you. Internally also, by the way, we will, we'll be full of ambiguity ourselves, whether I'll be able to do this, whether I'll be sort of able to impress my manager or impress my partner, impress my investors, whether I'll be able to do that. So a combination of those two needs a lot of effort, right? Combating these two factors needs a lot of effort at our end. And I think we should always imagine as if we have gotten the role now, if we are successful, but we haven't yet earned it. So we need to now earn that role, essentially, right? So that is the first question. And the second is also obviously very, very important, is what if we are not able to make a transition? What if we are failure at making this transition despite our best efforts? And that is where I think it needs a lot of introspection. I would request everyone to take a pause, and I've done that myself. Take a pause, take a stock of what went wrong, what did not go right, what could have been better. And there are two things there that you can do. You can either figure out a goal which is probably not at the ultimate aspiration that you had, but maybe somewhere in between your current reality and your ultimate aspiration. Or probably you can also go back to the when question, that probably you are calling yourself a loser much before you've actually given it a fair bit of time and fair effort. And probably you are still at the when question. So I think you need to basically figure out which of the two statuses you actually belong to, and then figure out your next course of action. I think those that's what it is. I think that is all from my side. So this is the sort of really the framework or set of questions that I would encourage everyone to ask themselves if they are undergoing or planning to undergo a career transition. Himanshu, Sachin, sorry.
Thanks a lot, Ruchir. This is outstanding, a clear set of questions, 6 in 3 cycles. But let me bring Himanshu in. Himanshu, any place which excites you looking at these questions, your favorite question out of these 6, or anything that you may want to add? You are on mute, Himanshu, if you are speaking.
Sorry. I think it's so comprehensively done. It's very little I can add to it. But if you ask me my favorite question, it's why. And I think we all go wrong on the why. Why do we want to make that transition? Which is the source of all the confusion, challenges, success, failure? Everything comes from there. If we are clear about our why, I think everything else can be fallen into place and you can make multiple attempts. But you cannot mend a wrong why. If you are making a change for money, for example, which I'm sure a lot of us prioritize, then you should be clear what you are willing to compromise on that. And that there is nothing in this world without a trade-off. So your trade-offs should be clear. You should be clear why are you making a transition. You can't have both or everything at the same time. And realizing that is, to me, the key to success.
That's very, very well said, Himanshu. Let me ask both of you one basic question, and that goes to what the name of this program was, right? The name of the program was Career Transition to Transformation. How do you define these two words, and what's the difference to you, like transition versus transformation? I get confused. Is it just play of English language, or there is something deeper in that? And let me take it first to you, Himanshu, and then I'll ask Ruchir for you to chime in.
I was going to toss the ball in the air and see who catches. but since it's tossed at me, let me make an attempt. Career transition is moving from one career or one job opportunity or a professional opportunity to another, which requires very different skill sets, where the skill set changes significantly. It could be as simple as moving from sales to marketing, which are quite close to each other, or moving from manufacturing to HR, still close, or from HR to marketing. That could be quite far away. In a corporate setting, it could be significant change of industry, moving from B2B sales to B2C sales. Both are two different, completely different sets, and you need your experience on the industry you are in to be able to pull off a success in a new function, in a new territory. And territory, not the geographical one, I'm saying functional, a new space. So I like to keep it short. If you want me to elaborate, I can go further, but I don't want to capture all the time on.
No, that is transition, right, Himanshu? So what
That
would
is
be
transition.
transformation?
Yeah. Transformation is a successful transition, is a transformation. So when you succeed at it, when you do a very good job with it, and you become outstandingly successful, that's transformation. So I wanted to be a great marketer, and I moved from HR to marketing. And then I said, oh, I made a name for myself in marketing. And that is what I would call a transformation, because then you could make it a success, because there's no space which is not good. All spaces are good. A clearly successful transition is transformation, the way I see it. Ruchir can add.
I so much agree. I absolutely agree with you, Himanshu. I think when you make a transition, like in 100% of the cases, like I've made about 3 different functional transitions, and I've made maybe 4 industry transitions, and every time I've been very nervous. Like 100% of the time I have felt threatened. Once actually it was pushed by my boss, because one of our so I was in finance, and our head of supply chain had actually quit. And my boss said, why don't you do supply chain? I said, excuse me, I have never done supply chain. Like why in all the world you think I can do supply chain? No, he said that you have partnered with supply chain off and on. Why don't you do it? And I actually was very nervous. This was, my last stint. I did that, and I think I'm very proud of where I left the organization. I actually was able to find another supply chain job after that. So I actually continued in supply chain despite being a finance professional. I actually found a supply chain job in a new company, in a new sector. So I think I can fairly say that I had bragging rights for it, that I could sort of really continued in that new role, in that new function, in a new sector and in a new industry as well. So completely agree.
Yeah, and thanks both of you. And as Vishal is pointing out in the chat, it is about a transition which opens up more doors for you in your careers, and that's what you did in Ruchir in that space. You could be a financial professional or a supply chain professional in a new organization. So that's outstanding. But let me take us back to one of the things around when we were talking about the why. Himanshu, you said about sacrifices, or you cannot have it all. So I typically, growing up in PepsiCo, we used to use a framework pretty early on for starting when we were starting our careers, which we used to say 3 L's. Either you can get location, you can get level, which is like promotion, or you can get learnings out of any job. And I'm sure these are just 3 of the many choices anyone has to make. But your thoughts on it, and let me first in this time go to Ruchir to say, what's your thought on what are the kind of parameters one should look at, and from there, how do you make a choice? How many, say, out of these 3 that I said, location, level, learning, how many should you sort of try to get in any job transition or transformation?
I think see, the transition can be of 2 types. Sachin, they can be push based or they can be pull based. Push based would mean basically when I'm actually laid off from a company, let us say, or say, for example, I need to move because I have an emergency in the family, or my spouse is moving to a different location and there is a personal need to move to a different location. Or my company is really bad, like my boss is really bad, etc., etc. Or they can be pull based, which is like, I really want to do a job, I really want to do a marketing job in a e-commerce company, let us say, for example. So I think if it is push based, there is very little choice that you actually have many a times, like in terms of location, level, or learning, and you may need to compromise on those three, on all of them, or on two of them, or on one of them. But I think when we are seeking career transition ourselves, and I think that is what is more important, and that is the topic of this discussion, I think I will always optimize only on the learning part, because I think if you optimize on learning, I think the other two L's will actually follow. I think once you are in it, you have you have proven yourself to your satisfaction, to the company's satisfaction. I think you can actually demand both level and location, and it's never the other way around. Is what I feel.
Himanshu, any additional thoughts on?
No, I think I'm aligned to what Ruchir said. I like to put it a little differently. What I'm saying is, when you're seeking learning, you should be willing to compromise on level and location. You can't be chasing that, why didn't I get my promotion in a new role, which I wanted because it was good for me, and I want the location of my choice, and I want a level of my choice. That won't happen, because you're making a change from one industry to the other, or one function to the other, where capability to contribute or create value is low initially. It'll go up, you have it in you, you can make it happen later, but initially when you get into that role, it'll be low. So if you're chasing, that is why the way I see it is, when it is pull-based, when you are wanting to make a change, looking at a future prospect of that functional success in that function, or an opportunity opening in that function, then it's very, very, very important that you are very clear that you're willing to compromise on your level and location easily. Money cannot be your driver at that time. Actually, in career transitions, money and level can very easily be your choice. The fact that somebody is giving you an opportunity to transit, whether it's another company or your own company, it means they are trusting your basic capabilities, which is basically intelligence, both the IQ and the EQ, the emotional and this. They are judging that you can make that change, and they're giving you that opportunity. At that time, expecting that you will get other things as per your choice, maybe asking for too much from an organization risk management perspective. So Sachin, you're a part of HR teams and you hire. When you're hiring a new guy and you hire somebody from a different industry, you're always a little circumspect whether he'll be able to do it. And if he comes and says, guys, I want a 40% higher salary, you will say, are you sure? Are you sure? Should I make that change now? But if he does a stellar job, 40% may not be a big challenge. I'm talking in an Indian context, not in the US context. US context, 40% looks very different. In Indian context, it is not unusual, especially in this employees job market at this moment. So the way I see this transition is that whenever there's a pull transition, when there is a push transition, which, Ruchir said that there is a need by the company and they are asking you to move there, there is confidence. Then you have to trust yourself and your judgment, whether you really want that to happen to you. If it's if I'm asked that, would you do a supply chain role, Ruchir, like he was asked, and I do not believe I can do it. If I believe in myself, yes, for sure, go ahead. If I don't believe, I need to develop that belief before I take that job. If I take that job without believing in myself, the chances of success are much lesser. And the world is quite cruel. It doesn't give you It doesn't give you a chance to give excuses, especially the corporate world, if I may use the word. Your own business, it's your own personal cost. You take the cost, you take the hit, your father may take the hit if it's a family business, and he may let you go. But a corporate world is quite cruel. It doesn't give you those opportunities again and again.
Absolutely. No, thanks, both of you. And I think it goes back to what you guys were saying early on, which is the big question is why. And I just believe, Ruchir, maybe in the framework, in that why question, we also need to add, what is the biggest thing that you want? You may want 5 things, but
Yeah.
is it learning that you are going for? Is it money that you're going for? Because that would then drive your decisions or your answers for other 5 questions.
See, I can give you an example from my own career. I started my life as an engineer. And as an engineer, I used to love my project job. And there was a moment where I thought that I should be, I was working for a company which was implementing a project with a lot of EPC companies working for them. And I was the project coordinator. I loved my job. And then it happened, I was made the production manager. By, sheer luck, fate, challenge, my bosses did not exist. They never got hired. And I ended up running the whole factory. When I changed my job from there to Hindustan Lever, from Shriram to Levers, I once again joined as a project engineer, setting up project systems or working on a project. Then came an opportunity out of the blue. They were looking for a role for which they didn't have an internal candidate. And somewhere in my long 9-page form, which they used to have, I had written that I love interacting with people. I love commercial negotiations and things like that. And this I'm saying in the year 96, not recent. So the HR, one of the more evolved HR members, such in your fraternity, he looked at it and said, oh, yes, this guy can do it. Actually, he was looking for a scapegoat because nobody wanted to get into that role. And I was very, very happily walking in. When it came to me, I just loved taking it. And I loved the fact that I was doing industrial sales. 6 months or 8 months later, Pepsi offered me a job with more than double the salary as a factory manager in the country. And I didn't want to take it. I didn't take it. I said no. I said no to the money coming alongside. And I said, no, I want to stick to it. Why? Because I realized that sales can take me to become a chief executive of the company someday. But if I continue in technical, I may only become a technical head. It's unlikely I'll become a sales head or the business head. And that was my choice. Maybe it could have gone wrong. You never know the future, but it went right. And that is what I would say transition is all about. So you made a transition out of an opportunity coming your way and you're grabbing it, but then deciding that I don't want to go back to my comfort zone. I want to stay in my zone of discomfort for more time and build a career here rather than go back. And that was a difficult choice. When you are 28 and somebody offers you more than double the salary, saying no is not easy.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story, Himanshu, and didn't know that we have much more shared sort of backgrounds, and you had a trust with PepsiCo at some point in time. But let me build this further, this concept of sacrifices, and the sacrifices or the tough choice that you defined right now was career only, right? You wanted to be in sales because you had your eye on the big prize of being a CEO or a business leader versus getting back into technical. But what happens, and would love both of your views, what happens when there is a choice between a family need and a career need? A lot of times in our lives at different points in time, we may come stuck where there is a beautiful opportunity in front of you, but you have a family constraint or a different need on a family side. So how do you decide in those times? So, and let me bring in Ruchir first here. Ruchir.
So I actually have faced it in past, and the answer actually is different, and it depends on the situation that you have at hand. So early in my career, I had I had opportunity to work with Accenture in its consulting domain. That involved me traveling for long periods far away from my home. And I was married then, and I was newly married, and we basically, me and my wife actually spoke about it, and we said that this is not working out. How do we spend more time together? She was working in Gurgaon. I was actually working all across the country, sometimes outside. So we actually, she actually took a hard call. She actually sacrificed her ambition, and she said, "Let me take a break, and why don't we travel together when we go?" I said, "Beautiful idea. Let's do it." So we did that. Yeah, so she took the sacrifice. Obviously it was a shared sacrifice for me. I was not the first hand recipient of it, but I'm sure she went through a lot of pain. And then I think more recently, I think the another form of sacrifice that I actually go through in my own career is that all the choices in career that I have made so far, and I continue to make them, I don't have 100% sponsorships from my immediate family, including my wife, my kids, and my parents. But I still do them, because I feel I think that's the way how I am built, right? Because I would lose my identity if I were to just take the easy path out. Like, for example, the transition that I'm actually going through right now, I've actually transitioned from finance to sales just now, actually, the beginning of this year. And it is very difficult for me to actually learn sales because I've never done it. And I would take some tips from Himanshu on this, probably. I've never done sales. It's very difficult for me. I've always done, finance and analytical job. Like even in my previous job when I was doing supply chain, you are always on the you always have a higher seat at the table when you are actually buying stuff, right? So Himanshu can relate to it.
I know, the first thing I was going to say is keep your ego at home.
Exactly. Like when I'm the CFO of the company, I would ask my sales head, "Dude, you are not selling. Like this is not done. This is not done. Like the sales are nowhere close to what your target is. I don't care. I don't care a shit." Yeah.
I love it when you get, it's like going from the planning to the infantry in the army and saying, guys, well, this flank is not working well and you're not shooting enough enemy. So, okay.
Exactly.
I'll give you a little more stark example, Sachin. And why I say stark, I was doing extremely well in my career and I was posted in Devas. I was running the factory, which I just mentioned, when my father died. And I was 27, I think. I had to move to Delhi because my family there's nobody to hold it together. I did not think twice. I took a back seat on my career and I put myself in a parking slot. I call it a parking slot because you had a job, you had an earning, but you were not growing. You were not rising, climbing the ladder. However, 4 years, 3 years. Sorry. Okay. 3 years later.
Please continue.
3 years later, when things got settled, and then I took a job with Levers in Pune first, and eventually in Pondicherry. It landed in Pondicherry. And I come from North India. My family was in Ghaziabad, and my mother was very sentimental about me leaving, and she used to depend on me a lot. And I told her one thing. I said, "See, look at it this way. What's our inheritance? Our inheritance is our knowledge and learning. Our inheritance is not a large pool of money. And the only way we as a family can move forward is if we play in a big enough pond. If I'm playing in a small pond in Delhi, that's a job pond, I'll get some job. I'll exist. But if you want me to prosper, you have to let me move out." And she saw the point. My relatives were uneasy, but she found a lot of merit in that. And she said, "Yeah, go and fly." So to me, I think it depends on the stages of life and the situation where you take a call, which is very unique to you and your situation. And there's no answer for that. Nobody can say that you did wrong or you did right, because to each his own situation. End of the day, you need to be at what I call peace with yourself. Whatever decision you take, you need to be at peace with yourself.
So much agree with that. Yeah.
That's outstanding. And like, as both of you were narrating a few stories, similar to that, I also took decisions which I thought were difficult at that point in time. In hindsight, they were the right decisions, or I would say appropriate decisions. But sometimes you take backseat because of family, and sometimes you are able to convince your family to move ahead and let you fly, like what you said, Himanshu. Let me now bring both of you to another aspect, and I'm sure some of our participants or people who may hear this webinar later on as a recording may find it useful. We've spoken about a lot about transitions within corporations, right? How do you make a transition within a corporate, one job to another? But what if someone is wanting to make a transition from, say, running his or her own business to corporation, or vice versa? I'm today in PepsiCo. I want to start my own organization, start my own entrepreneur journey. What about that? Anything that would change in this set of questions, or do you think the framework would apply there too? What would it be? Any thoughts on that? And I'll let anyone take it first this time around.
Let me take a go at it. Ruchir can add or counter me completely and say that no, I don't agree, which I'll be most welcome to say that. My take is that is very different journey. And while the framework will apply, because the what, why, when, how are very, very basic questions, and these apply in most situations. I think the content and the software or the within each question is very different. First of all, that's a very difficult and different move because very few people make that move. And I'm not talking from a pure startup culture. Some of the people in the startup culture, while we look at the success rate, we should also look at the failures. A lot of us fail in that. And the success rate is like not, it's like saying, you became Sachin Tendulkar, but when 1 million people play, then you find one Sachin Tendulkar. So do you want to be 1 in a million? Do you want to take that kind of a risk, or do you have that appetite is what you would need to figure out. So when you're moving from your own stable corporate job to business, I would say it is a little easy because by that time, possibly in your mind, you've created some financial security, you're in a better stage, and it's a choice. Giving up a job is a choice. Starting your own business is a choice. And there is nobody says that if you come from a corporate life, you can't do business. Your experience there can be useful. It's an easier one. But when you want to go from your own business into a corporate sector job, the barriers are much higher because your acceptance depends on the choice made by others. Because you go and appear for an interview, they may or may not like you. The biggest challenge is the way the corporates work and the way an individual business at a certain scale, I'm not talking of a large scale, I'm talking SME scale works, is very different. One is very formal, the other is very informal. Processes, systems, more evolved systems, whether it's in simple like ERP or the Salesforce.com, these kind of systems, and following these systems is much more important in that compared to this. So I would say that if anybody is wanting to make that change, the earlier in life they make, the better it is. The later you want to make it, the more difficult it becomes. And you will have to take a setback at some stage in line with your experience. You may have a 10-year experience of running your own business, but when you went into a corporate job, very few people will give you even half that value in terms of your leveling in the company, and you will have a longer time to make up for that. So that's the way I see it, Ruchir.
Yeah, so I think I would agree. I would agree most of it. I think on the part that you spoke about, Himanshu, that it is very difficult, I actually agree. But I also have a point of view that it's not impossible, and I think it basically depends on how badly you want it and what are you willing to do for it, right? So I think one of the key steps, by the way, in figuring this whole piece out is that how do you create your own narrative, your own story, right? Why? So for example, if I am essentially, let us say if I have the CFO and the head of supply chain experience, and if I go and I've been doing supply chain for a while, and now I move back into finance as a CFO. I go and appear for a CFO interview. There will obviously be other candidates who would have much better grasp of finance concepts than I would, because I'm out of touch with finance for, let's say, last 5 years. So if I obviously focus on the finance aspects of it, I may not get it. But if I focus on my operational expertise, a CFO who also understands how operations are run, who also understands how the business is done, that it's not always important to buy it from the cheapest vendor, but it's important to buy it from the most reliable vendor, who is also the cheapest, right? Basically. So I think in business, for example, when I'm doing a business and I want to transition into corporate, one thing that I 100% agree is that you may not get the credit for the entire experience that you have, because I think as a corporate, especially the skilled corporates are spoiled for choice, right? Because they have so much candidates kind of approaching them. They're just spoiled for choice. So if I need a let us say a trained marketeer essentially in my team, I am actually going to get that trained where the learning curve is going to be zero. The guy who's already from the industry, why would I not choose him versus someone who is still to learn digital marketing, or who's doing a little bit of marketing, but that's only 20% of his job. But I think if that person essentially creates his own story saying, say, for example, apart from marketing, he also understands which product to market, how to optimize on, let's say, for example, marketing a highly profitable product versus a non-profitable product. Like, there are multiple narratives that you can weave in. So I think the key is that how do you create your own story, which you are really confident about? And that is something that's going to come from the bottom of your heart, essentially. And if you are...
I wanted to make a small clarification.
Yes.
What I was alluding to was when you are running your own business and you move into corporate, it's more difficult. I didn't refer to moving across functions. I think within the industry, if you're moving from supply chain back to finance, no, not difficult. It is just a type of job. If you're getting into the company which is getting for an IPO, they may not look at you. If you're getting into the company which is looking to run our operations in a sustained manner, they may love you over somebody who has no experience, because they want somebody who understands finance as operations, not just an IPO management at that moment.
Correct. No, fair. Thanks for the clarification, Himanshu. Like on the business side, I think I absolutely agree with you. It's more difficult. I think, when you move from your own business, because as I said, corporates are spoiled for choice. And maybe I think the step there is then that you start small, right? You start, you start small, you start volunteering. And I have actually seen people actually in my own team in finance, in the current organization, we actually recruited someone who was running a chemicals factory along with his father. But he was, as Himanshu said, make that choice early in your career. If you do that, the risk is lesser. And that guy was young. He had only about 3 years of experience, out of which 1.5 was.
So if he understands the equipment, then he can pick up the systems quickly.
Correct.
It's normally the formality and the informal systems which makes a difference, not the person's capability. So how you approach an issue. Corporates are very formal because they try to be what I call people unspecific, that anybody who sits in that role should be able to do it without really big disruption.
Supervision. Yeah. Agree. So
no, thanks for this. This is outstanding. And one of the key themes from this conversation I would take is interviews, and to Ruchir's point, interviews are always given. They are never taken. No one takes your interview, you give an interview. So it's your story, how you tell it. It's your way of bringing it all together, your experiences, how it can help in a certain job that you are applying for. With that, let us take a slight detour. We want to give it back to Sanyog ji to talk about mentorship. But after that, we would come back and we'll take even questions from audience. So please, if you have questions, please put them in chat. Once we come back after 5 minutes, after Sanyogji tells us about mentorship program that JPF have, we'll talk about the questions. Some questions I still have because this is just a fascinating conversation, but we'll also take questions from audience at that point in time. So put that in your chat, and over to you, Sanyogji.
Yeah, so before that, I'd just like to just point out that, this is fantastic. And we've had such a nice general talk. And I'm sure there are a number of people, and looking at the chat and what's appearing there, it seems that there are so many people who are really looking and could do with one-on-one mentorship in terms of their career change and their career transitions and career transformations. And Sayog, we'd really request you to share all this information on how they can join the mentorship program which Jito is already running, the JPF is already running. So over to you, Sayog.
Thank you, Sushma ji. And the Jito mentorship program, our tagline is where experience meets curiosity. And if you belong to the Jain community, living anywhere in the world, you can get mentored under this program. It is truly a program which has no boundaries. And last month, we celebrated the first anniversary of the program. On this particular occasion, we had Mr. Deepak Jain. Mr. Deepak Jain is a former dean of Kellogg School of Management and INSEAD. Currently, he's the president and professor of marketing at the China-Europe International Business School in Shanghai, China. His session was so very well attended, and also the comments that we got for his session were just, right reaching the sky. I'll give you 15 to 20 seconds to just absorb what is written on the screen. And people were saying that it was an honor to listen to life-changing, heart-touching stories from Deepak ji. There was an element of personal touch, and most importantly, Jain values in his talk. And the best thing is that, you can still, if you are not able to attend this program, you can see this program, you can see the recording of this program, which is available on the Jito's YouTube website. Now, the mentorship program, so far we have got 50 mentors representing 24 different industries, and they offer 15 plus areas of mentorship. We have done so far more than 200 one-on-one and group mentoring sessions. As a matter of fact, I think more than 250. This is our 10th level up series. There have been 18 group mentoring sessions. We do 3 to 4 group mentoring sessions every month. And we also, the mentoring is done because, it could be on a particular situation, as Sushma ji talked about. If you want a career transition, what kind of dialogue you can have with the mentor. It could be developmental mentoring. We have some BAD sessions every quarter where we hear from our mentors. And the good thing is that actually none of these, they really cost anything. And if you belong to Jain community, all you have to do is to complete the form, and we will match your profile with the right mentor, and you can have that conversation. Our mentors, they are really who's who of the industry. They're based out of 6 different continents, some of the most well-known companies, and reading out any particular name would actually not be fair. But you can see, right from Google to Axis Bank, we have people from the top companies, traditional companies, new age companies, everywhere, from academia, from McKinsey. And the goal really is that to add 100 mentors on this platform. And we are up to speed on that. I believe that before the year ends, we should have 100. We will have 100 mentors on the panel. Now, when it comes to mentoring, really there is an anomaly. So what I'm going to share with you, these are some international statistics, but I think in India, these statistics are even more stark. 75% of the executives, they credit mentors for helping them reach their current level of success. And it could be in any area. But more than 60% of the professionals, they don't have a mentor. So you can just see from this particular slide, how much of opportunity really lies to advance your career. And the mentorship categories that are offered, the 17 plus different categories on leadership, on international business, on career growth, operations, entrepreneurship, and many, many more. Now, sometimes we think that, if we take up mentorship, mentorship is only open, or it should only be done by people who are starting out their career, or maybe they're early leaders. Actually, that is not a fact. And I want to share with you a mentoring moment of one of our mentors. Now, you may have come across her name. Ms. Monica Pergal. She is the Director Legal Laws India. It's an MNC company. And just 2 days ago, she was voted as the top 100 general counsel in India. So let us hear what she has to say as far as mentoring is concerned. Let me just cue up the video. Sushma-ji, let me know once when I start the video if it is audible.
Hi, I'm Monica Pirgal and I'm one of the mentors on the JPF platform. I have been mentoring a lot of people on the mentor platform by JPF. A lot of professional students have reached out to me and they wanted to talk to me about their careers, what are the right choices, etc. As a mentor, I did not shy away from being a mentee as well. Irrespective of the number of years of experience I had, I realized that there are certain areas where I needed help as well. One of the areas was my social media footprint. I was not very active on LinkedIn. I was not creating content. I was just liking the posts of other people. I reached out to one of the mentors who worked at LinkedIn and he helped me with some tips and tricks on how to use LinkedIn in a better way. He told me to create some content from my area of work, which is the legal background. He also asked me to write some substantial comments on what other people post rather than just liking or just saying, great work, all the best, keep it up, those kind of comments. Those were some tips that I learned from my mentor journey, and that was my mentoring moment. I would encourage all of you to join the JPF Mentee platform and make use of all the mentors who are on our platform who bring number of years of experience and who can share their experiences with you and fast forward your learning journey. Thank you.
Okay, so that was Monica ji. She was talking about her mentoring moment. And it is said that not every Olympic athlete has a coach or a mentor, but every medal-winning Olympic athlete has a coach and a mentor. So for the Jain community, there is a great opportunity. Sometimes, you can have a mentor within your organization, but here, when you take up mentorship from the Jito mentorship program, it is someone who is outside the system. So there is confidentiality also, which is there. And in your lifetime, you would have many mentors, not just one mentor. You can have mentors within the organization. You can also have mentors who are outside the organization. So we have, every month, we run what we call as a level up series. And the programs are, we invite our mentors to conduct these programs. And we have some great titles, right from how to use LinkedIn to accelerate your career, to the spiritual intelligence for professional growth. All these videos, they are archived on the YouTube playlist, and you can see the URL of the YouTube playlist. By the way, from time to time, my one of our core team members, Amol, he is also pasting this information on your chat message. And in order to register for the program, here are some links. These links, as I said, have also been pasted in your chat. You can copy them and keep them aside. As and when you are ready, you can fill out the form, you fill out the JOT form, and we will match your profile with the mentor that you require. Going further, this is the core team members, the Jito Apex leaders who are the great supporters of our program. We have Mr. Ajay Bora, we have Mr. Milan Shah, we also have Mr. Prashant Jain. And as far as our program is concerned, Mr. Vishal Jain is the convener, he guides us. Sushma Bantia, she is part of our program. Amol Jain is part of the program. Nipunji, he is a co-convener. Ms. Preeti Jain is another member of the core team, and Krushmi Suchak, you may have from time to time heard from her. She is the program manager. So with that, I would like to stop my slides here and give it back to you, Sushma ji. and you can continue with the discussion which our mentors are having.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Sayugi. And again, I request, because I can see in the chat box, a lot of the questions are very personal. There would be some background and context before our mentors can actually answer some of these. So request people here to actually sign up for the mentee program. You will get one-on-one time with the mentors, and they can actually guide you through all your things. They would need a lot of background and context. The more general questions, most definitely we can take it up. And if we could probably take up a few of them, and we would definitely end at 9 p.m. After which we will still request Ruchir ji and Sachin ji also, and maybe some of the other mentors who have joined us, like Vishal, and there's Manish Singhvi, and I think Deepak Jain is also here. I see them. Please, to answer some questions, have some open conversation and open mic. Sure. Okay, so back to you, Sachin. I'm sure you have a whole basket full of questions, and we could take up a few of the ones that the participants are asking.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sushma ji. And I would just say once more that this is extremely powerful program that all of you should take benefit from, the mentorship program. So let me bring back Himanshu and Ruchir for some of the questions that I saw in the chat box. And like Sushma ji said, I'm not dealing with the personal questions. I'm just dealing with the themes that are coming out. And for the personal questions, I'll request all of you to reach out to mentors one-on-one. So one of the questions I would ask Ruchir and Himanshu is, how do you understand your why is appropriate? How do you assess that? Like, hey, I answered the question, but is that appropriate? And would request a spotlight to be put on Ruchir and Himanshu so that they can be on the screen with me. But how do you define why, and what are the things you do to ensure that you understand that the why is appropriate?
I think so. I can answer that. Maybe I will attempt at answering it. So I think the short answer is that you are never sure, right? I feel that you are never sure. The thing is that it's a cycle, and it's not a destination that you are trying to achieve here, right? So you are not trying to say that, okay, let me transition into sales, and sales is my destiny. So I have about 20 years of work experience, and I've been trying multiple things to this day. And I'm still trying to explore new things, right? So I think so the answer to why can be different at different points in time, and it is okay in my perspective. It is okay to have different answers at different points in time. When I started my career, money was very important, and I actually wanted to be in investment banking only because it pays money. My first career choice essentially was between two companies, and I picked the one that paid more money. Simple as that. I think so. But now, as Himanshu also highlighted that that he had bigger picture in mind. When he was even offered double salary, he had even bigger picture in mind that money is not to be chased right now, but if you chase learning right now, money will follow. So I think it just evolves over a period of time, and you can have multiple cycles in your career, where you can transition and transform, and each cycle you may have a different answer to why. That's just my perspective.
My input here would be that seek a mentor when you are making a decision like this. The mentor could be even your wife at that moment. When you are trying to figure out, you can always do a sense check whether my purpose, my why is valid or not. Somebody can say, is that such a big thing? Or it could be a past teacher, could be a senior colleague, could even be a junior colleague. I have found very good insights coming from people from all eyes. You can make the question in a neutral manner and put it to a group and see how would you decide. So to me, doing a sense check with the help of others is an important data point. The other thing which I believe is that, yes, things change. My personal experience is that when you go into the change, you should go with full surety. It may turn out to be wrong later on. Accept it, But don't go with a doubt in your mind, because if you go with a doubt in your mind, the chances of success reduce quite disproportionately. So when I get into something and I say, oh, if I don't succeed, I'll say, no, I don't have a choice. I have to succeed and I'll do well. I go with that clarity in mind that I have to do everything to make it work. Then if you give yourself an out early on, then you are likely to take it. But because I can promise you, any transition would requires more work than your normal job will. And it is difficult. It is not going to be a walk through the park. So for that, you need to be ready. You need to go with conviction and a clarity on why. Will you be right? Nobody knows. Only time will tell.
Yeah, no, thank you. And therefore, what both of you are saying is that there would be moments of doubt, but if you have thought through pretty well, you would be able to stick to your sort of defined path. But with that, you have to be open for a new transition. So with that, you also need to be flexible to say, hey, I'm not stuck with this. I decided this 5 years back that this is what I want to do, but maybe today my scenario has changed. I need a new why. So it's a balance between not self-doubting, but being open for new ideas. So new ideas should not be about self-doubt, but should be about, hey, new opportunity. Like Himanshu wanted to come into sales, but maybe later on he realized that, hey, marketing is a better option. So maybe, move to that even from sales and in that way. So,
in my first year of my job, my boss, we used to call him URS, he mentioned that regret is bad for careers. And I've stuck to it. I've chosen not to regret any decision in my life. And I prefer to use the word reflection. Regretting is a negative feeling about the same sentiment. Oh, what if I had done this? Reflection is, okay, where did I go wrong? And what can I do better to correct in future? You may say looking back is bad or good. I'm saying looking back with a positive mindset is great. Looking back with a regret is terrible for you and your future. So that's a choice which I would say to anybody wanting to make a transition to keep in mind.
That's a great snippet, Himanshu. Thank you. And I've noted out even in my pad, reflection versus regret. That's a choice that all of us need to make.
Yeah.
Another question that one of the participants raised is, and from the question, I realize his or her sort of why may be that I'm not feeling valued in my current organization, and therefore I want to change. So the question was that I know what is the scenario in my current organization, and therefore I'm defining my why. But how do I know where am I going, right? How good that organization is? What is the culture of that organization? Would I feel the same thing in that particular scenario or not? So how do you answer that? Both of you, Ruchir and Himanshu.
Ruchir, you go.
I think I actually feel. The context is not enough here right now, but I think you need to basically figure out why you are not valued in the organization, right? Is it because of your own incapabilities and the lack of skills, or is it because your manager is a genuine fool, right? Basically, or the company is not valuing the skills that you have. So I think you really need to answer that. So if it is your own sort of lacking, I think that is something that you need to fix right here and right now, right? Because if that is what the situation is, then moving to a new organization is not going to help. But if there is a genuine feeling that your skill sets are not valued, or you are not made for an organization like this, probably yes. I think you could make a change, and you can expect to get a growth or an uplift in your career. I'll share a personal example here. When I joined Accenture, I had never done consulting, and in first year itself, I realized consulting is not for me, and I need to move out. And I had comments from my manager that, Ruchir, your work is lousy. Like exactly these are the words, that your work is lousy, and I think Ruchir, you should consider another career. This was the second year. So I actually worked through that organization for 4.5 brutal years. It took me 3 years after the first year to find my next job, but I kept at it. And I think I had realized that I'm not made for consulting. That's not my cup of tea. And it's not that I don't have the skills, but I just don't have the skills that are required to be successful at a consulting career. And therefore I moved into industry. And since then, thankfully, so far, my punt was right, and I'm doing fairly okay.
Let me give you a small, a very simple parameter to judge, and that is whether you are enjoying your job. And I truly believe if you're enjoying your job, you can't be wrong. See, what happens is when you say enjoying your job means you like the role you get, you like the attention you get, like the appreciation you get, you're happy with the compensation you get. Compensation, even if you leave aside, you enjoy. When you go to the work, you feel excited about creating a new campaign or doing a new analysis, a new way to look at financial data, or a new solution to a supply chain problem going on, and you're constantly excited by it. That is a sign of you will do well in this. The moment you are not valued in the organization means will automatically get reflected in you are not enjoying your job. And then you have to look within, why am I not enjoying the job? Because I'm not being appreciated. What is the criticism I'm getting from my superiors, peers, or others? And sometimes if your boss is I'm sorry, I'll not use a 4-letter word on this forum, but he is the pain and he is biased against you. It's never a problem doing a sense check with your peers and others on how am I doing. Do an informal 360. Informal 360 is not difficult. People are willing to help you if you ask genuinely in the right kind of forum, and you would know how do they see your contribution. So then you can pinpoint the problem and address it correctly. The moment you start doing it in a general manner, why am I valued or not? You will be valued if you are adding value to the company. It could be a transient period where somebody is being biased against you, but that doesn't last long. That's my experience of working in the corporates. It lasts for a while, but not for long.
Yeah, no, I guess the key insight is when you are pointing one finger towards other, there are 3 others which are pointing toward yourself. So figure out whether it's a gap.
The answer is within you. I am saying answer is within you. You would know why you're not enjoying your job. It's very easy to figure it out.
So let me ask both of you who have great success in your careers, but I'm sure there would be moments of failures or reflection, as Himanshu would like to call it. So let me ask this last question from both of you, and any one of you can take it first. Tell us a moment where you felt that you did not achieve what you went out for, and in normal language maybe were a failure, and what was your learning out of it? Any transition you made or any step you took towards your career where you could not achieve what you set out for, and therefore the learnings out of that.
So
should I take a first attempt?
Yeah,
I can. So I think there's a genuine failure that I have had so far, and I'm still at it. Is basically, I think I have this ambition of venturing out as an entrepreneur. And this is since last 15 odd years. And I tried it. I actually tried to transition into being an entrepreneur in 2010. I took a long leave of about a month. I tried it, but I thought that this is not for me. I will not be able to do it. I did that in 2012. I actually quit my job, but then joined back again in a few weeks. In 2017, I actually did that again. I actually said no to a very lucrative opportunity, international opportunity, very big company, because I wanted to do something of my own. But again, I was not able to do it. I think each time the answer that I figured out for myself was not that I can't do it. I think the answer that I told myself was not now. And starting 2017, the last time when I failed, I actually made a genuine plan, and I went a step further and I answered myself. I actually questioned myself, why not now? If not now, then when? And I basically figured out an action plan that I need to do step 1, 2, and 3. Let me get past these thresholds, and when I'm able to do this, I shall be able to figure the problem out. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
I think for me, looking back, I would say my stint with ExxonMobil, I won't call it a big success. Not because there was anything at any time I was not rated doing well, but I never enjoyed that job. And that is why I call it was not a success. So one is your boss says, oh, you are okay, you're great, you need to improve. Largely 3 categories. So I was okay. I wasn't like, I have been used to getting, you are great. So that was first parameter. And I realized why I'm not able to, why I didn't enjoy the job. And that was the reason I left that company to join Diversey. Very interestingly, Diversey that time was a $3 billion global company. And only 10 crore of business I was to manage in Diversey while I was running a 500 crore business in ExxonMobil. So for me, it was like a mega change, moving from 500 crore to 10 crore. But then I realized that I need to see my contribution to the business and the success or failure of that. I need that feedback loop always in my life. That's my emotional, psychological need. And that's knowing yourself helps. Exxon, that was not the case. 70-80% of the products we were selling were commodities, actually 90%. And for commodities, I always felt, what am I doing? I'm just taking a price from Hong Kong and Singapore and giving the price either the deal is done or not done. So I'm negotiating much more internally than externally, and I'm hardly adding any value in the process. It's like selling or buying a product. Why don't they do it through a computer terminal rather than having me do it? So I never counted that as a success. Okay. In spite of that, I learned a lot, which has helped me all my life, even now. So when we are doing the commodity buying in Exxon, in Diversey, you know how the commodity markets operate, you understand those. So learnings have been phenomenal, but I never enjoyed that job, as in where you say, wow, this is something which I was born to do. And with Diversey, the only reason I went through this was I always enjoyed whatever I did. And that's why the growth, progress, and success comes automatically.
Thank you, Himanshu and Ruchir. Let me also bring in Vishal in here. And I know, Vishal, you had a few points that you wanted to share with the group on the conversation. So let me give you that opportunity.
Thank you, Sachin. I was just wondering, should we open for Q&A for the audience, and then maybe I can come in later, or I can add now? What would you prefer?
Vishal, it may be a good idea if we just open it up for, because I know Himanshu needs to leave, and I'm requesting all the rest
Sorry
to
for that.
on. Yeah.
So let's open for Q&A maybe now.
Right. And so let me just start with Vibhor. You know, I mean, we've been talking so much about learning and transition, and he put in the chat box, he says, hey, you're saying, you know, learn, and it would have been, how do you really learn fast? How did you do in a very short span, learning from, say, technical to sales? You know, you need to learn the game really in a short span. How did you undertake this learning curve? And request everyone to just keep their answers really short. So we would like to really officially close at 9 IST.
One line answer to Vibhor is keep all your senses alert and awakened at all times. Observe, directly hear, ask for it, smell it, feel it. You can feel the vibe. If you are constantly aware, your learning really is fast. If you work with one thing at a time, if somebody doesn't take me to a training room and doesn't teach me, I can't learn. Okay, you will learn, but very slowly. If you're constantly asking questions, are curious, keeping your senses alert, you will learn really fast.
I actually agree with that. I think we just need to learn without expectations, I think, and learn always, like not when we are seeking career change, I think we just need to constantly learn, right? Because when the career transition, when the opportunity would knock, you would not know and you will not have the time to learn, right? Basically, so if it's not like that you are sitting on the couch the whole day, and when suddenly an opportunity arises and you are able to learn, and then you are able to crack that opportunity. I think learning is a constant process, and keep at it, as Himanshu highlighted. Absolutely valid.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much. I think, we will just open it up, and thank you, Sachin. You've really done a fantastic job of moderating and getting a lot of things out of them. And there was so many commonalities and so many differences. And that was what made it exciting. I had to say, okay, where are they agreeing? What are the differences? And Sachin, you come from an HR background and you've been moderating so well. 2 minutes, really want to know your views. Take off your moderator hat and please tell us. And then we get for the vote of thanks.
No, I would say I couldn't agree more with what Himanshu and Ruchir said. And it was a learning experience for me to listening to the personal stories. That to me is always very powerful, because it, frameworks are frameworks, but when you put them in real life and real scenarios, there is something else that comes out. And that was most powerful to me. One thing I would say to, from my experience, to everyone who's listening is, your career is in your hand. And that's what came out of the conversation today. It's not in the hands of your manager or your organization or someone else. It's in your hand. You are the one who's driving it. And therefore, you are the one who need to make these choices and these decisions. It's not easy, but it is not something that none of us have done. All of us have done it. All of us were nervous at all points in time when we made these decisions. So you are not alone. Seek out to a mentor if you want to. Reach out to a mentor, speak to them, and all of us are in the same boat. All of us make these decisions on a daily basis, and therefore you can too, and you can also make the transition. That's what I would say, Sushma ji, and back to you.
Yeah, thank you. And most of the questions that people have asked, which were generic and general, have been answered. Sachin has taken them. And, we had this, and the ones who had specific questions, which we said, please join the mentorship program, connect with a mentor one-on-one. And over to you, Preeti, for the formal vote of thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sushma ji, and thanks so much, everyone. Himanshu ji, Ruchir ji, Sachin ji, and Vishal ji, for this very insightful session and the amazing audience. So I would like to take a moment to just thank all the attendees for joining the session today. And we are looking forward to meeting you all in the following months as well. As we stated earlier, that the Jito mentorship program has a lot of such upcoming initiatives, and we encourage all young Jito professionals to join the program. Today's session, as I said, would not have been possible without our speaker support and commitment to this mentorship program. And I would also like to thank Jito Apex leadership for facilitating such a fruitful event. And sincerely, I would also like to extend my thanks to the entire core team of the Jito mentorship program working committee. That includes Mr. Sanyog Jain, Mrs. Sushma Bantia, Mr. Amol Jain, and the program manager, Ms. Krushmi, for working tirelessly and volunteering in order to make the GMP a reality. So with that, we hope to see you again soon. Till then, stay safe and keep smiling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this. Thanks for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
And now we'll open it up for questions, and we will request people to just unmute themselves. And I think the first person who should speak should be Vishal. You've been so patiently holding off for some time.
I'm sorry I have to leave. Please pardon me.